How did Palestinian men treat me as a black woman living in Palestine? For some quick context, I lived in the West Bank for 7 months. Let's start with like basic respect when I'm walking down the street. So, of course, I've mentioned before in my previous videos that when I lived in Palestine, I dressed modestly, but not necessarily so. I mostly wore jeans and things like that, but there were times that I wore a mini skirt where I did wear a crop top. I'm gonna attach the photo so you guys can see. I also clearly have prominent tattoos on the upper part of my body. When I would walk through town and things like that, I would get maybe a few glances, but nothing that really stuck out to me. I never saw any man like craning his neck to like look at the back of me or anything like that. People would greet me all the time, really respectfully, but I was never catcalled. I was never followed. I was also never touched. Mind you, all of these things happened to me while living in Europe and in the US, but none of it happened to me at all in Palestine. Now, let's get into relationships that I had with men. So, I never dated in Palestine. Some of my coworkers did, but the great majority of my Palestinian friends were actually men. In the main friend group that I had, we actually met them at a cafe where they came up to us and was asking us about, where we were from because they spoke English and they just wanted to know more about my coworker and I. And so from that led to them inviting us, to sites and things like that, taking us in their car. And it was so interesting because it was the first time in my life that I've ever had a male friend group and they were all straight. But when we hung out, it was mostly literally just like normal banter. They were asking us about our lives back home. We were asking them about, their lives in Palestine, things like that. And if I never met this group of men, I wouldn't have seen as much of Palestine as I did. Because they took my coworker and I to Ramallah. They took us to this other historical site next to Nablus. And they just really prioritized like showing us around and making sure that we saw like the true side of Palestine in Nablus. And from talking to them, I just want to say like a lot of them really love their wives, they love their family, and they really love their children as well. Some of them did have kids. And to be honest, when I think back on it, it was just a very wholesome friendship, a really wholesome dynamic as well. But it overwhelmingly reflected the behavior that I saw from Palestinian men in general. Really respectful, really curious. Palestinian people are extremely hospitable across the board. They really want to make sure that you have a good time, that you're well fed, that you know like really good places to go. They also introduce you to their other friends, to their family, things like that. I had so many good experiences. Like, for example, I had a sewing machine that broke, and I took it to the sewing machine guy, and he fixed my sewing machine for free. And none of it was done like in a perverted way or something, that they wanted something back. It's literally they did it out of the kindness of their hearts. And other really good experiences with men in Palestine as well is that they would literally pull over in their cars if they saw you walking with like groceries or something and offer to drive you home. And initially when I first went there, I was like, no. But like we were told by people who had worked there prior and worked there for years that it is something that they just do in general. And we probably would not have gotten kidnapped if we accepted. And so many times when it was raining and, I went grocery shopping, I would always be offered rides home by like these random men. And anytime we got into their cars, they would literally just be asking us questions like about our lives back home. Like none of it was perverted, none of it was like dangerous or like signaled, something in my brain that I should be in danger. They're just a really caring group of people across the board. I've had no negative experiences with men in Palestine.